A camera drops from a clear sky, plunging straight into a thick, oppressive canopy of fog and dark timber. When your field of vision is choked off by dense mist, your brain undergoes a biological reaction known as visual deprivation. Unable to scan for real predators, your amygdala compensates by automatically populating those empty gray spaces with the worst-case survival scenarios it can imagine. Then, a voice cuts through the haze, speaking in Marathi. Ya janglat ratri गेल्यावर काहीतरी अज्ञात जागा होता. When you enter this forest at night, something unknown awakens. This specific audio cue takes your free-floating anxiety and anchors it onto the specific anticipation of a promised unseen threat. This diagram illustrates a psychological concept called the safe boundary. The central circle represents your current reality, the safety of your living room or theater seat. As the dot moves outward, crossing the dashed line, it enters a vast, undefined space. Breaching the threshold, the outer area instantly floods with multiplying undefined signatures. The camera's continuous downward motion physically drags your perspective across that boundary, stripping your high-altitude advantage. This opening descent serves a tactical purpose. It systematically blinds and disarms the viewer before the actual trap is even sprung. The camera finally bottoms out, arriving at an abandoned bungalow in the woods. Instead of going straight in, the drone executes a slow, deliberate 360-degree rotation around the entire perimeter of the building. Look at this wireframe diagram of a house. As the sweeping arc draws around the structure, it explicitly highlights and crosses out every potential exit vector. This maps to a spatial technique called enclosure, used to visually prove to your brain that no rescue or escape routes exist in any direction. With the exit sealed, unnatural smoke and glowing eyes materialize in the immediate environment. The massive, sprawling threat of the endless forest suddenly collapses, shrinking its radius down to this exact, inescapable location. A second Marathi line drops in. Varshanpasun bandasleera ha bangla. This bungalow closed for years. By detailing the history of the location, the narrative weaponizes the building's past, compounding the dread by implying the structure itself is corrupted. Effective cinematic paranoia relies on geometric proof. By presenting irrefutable visual evidence of isolation, the sequence ensures the viewer feels entirely cut off from the outside world. The orbit ends, and the perspective shifts to a slow, creeping push through a decaying doorway and straight into pitch-black darkness. Your survival instincts are telling you to back away, but through a mechanic called forced perspective, the camera acts as a hostile proxy. It paralyzes you, dragging your point of view directly into the danger zone against your will.
Once inside, you encounter the uncanny valley, applied here to architecture. Humans are biologically conditioned to recognize a home as a sanctuary. When a domestic space begins to behave incorrectly, it triggers a deep, visceral discomfort. The script calls for specific visual effects here. Lamps flickering out of rhythm, old photographs subtly shifting their positions. These details execute that uncanny violation, turning mundane objects into actively hostile entities. The voice returns for a third time. Pratyek bhinti mage, ek gupit laplela hai. Behind every wall, a secret is hidden. The words mirror the physical sensation of the room pressing inward, amplifying the absolute claustrophobia of the space. The peak of horror is found in these agonizing moments, when the established laws of a supposedly safe space actively turn against the viewer. Suddenly, the sequence hits its climax. The drone violently pulls up, rushing away as the bungalow is instantly swallowed by blinding, dense white fog. For 3 minutes, your brain has been desperately mapping out the geography of the room in the forest to establish a sense of bearing. Abruptly erasing that geography through spatial subversion strips away your mental floorboards, leaving your mind completely defenseless. Out of that disorienting fog, a silhouetted shadow figure emerges dead center, staring directly into the camera lens. In a horror context, breaking the fourth wall like this is a severe violation. You instantly transition from a passive observer watching a screen to the active, designated target of the entity. A final Marathi whisper echoes. Hi pakta suruvat ahe. This is only the beginning. In psychology, this functions as an open loop. It deliberately denies your brain the structural closure it needs to signal that the danger has passed.
The anatomy of a perfectly engineered scare relies on this permanent disruption. By erasing the boundary between the fiction on screen and the viewer in the real world, the structure guarantees that the terror continues long after the video cuts to black.